Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show. And my guest, once again, because I like having this young man on, I think he does a hell of a job covering recruiting, etc., for LettermenRow.com and On3.com. Matt Parker. Matt Parker, welcome back to the Tim May Show in the much coveted co pilot seat.
Tim, thank you for having me once again. I get a little comfortable on the show talking with you. It's
Yeah,
always a
no,
good time.
appreciate it, man. By the way, hold up your cup, man, ladies and gentlemen. Hold up your cup so everybody can see it.
There you go.
Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Um, by the way, today is May the 2nd, at least when this podcast drops. Yesterday was what? Yesterday was May the 1st, which is May Day. Too bad it didn't come out on May the 1st. The Tim May Show on May Day. By the way, I've told Ryan Day he and I are going to have a podcast in about 20 years when he's done coaching. It'll be the May Day podcast. And he said, no, it'll probably be Day May. And I agreed with him on that one. But I digress. Boy, I really like my guest that I've got on this show, other than Matt Parker today. The person sitting in first class right behind us, Monica Daniels, the mother of Paris Johnson Jr., who just went in the number 6 overall pick in the National Football League draft 2023. He followed his friend C.J. Stroud, the number 2 pick, who went to the Houston Texans. Paris Johnson Jr. went to the Kansas City Chiefs. And, of course, later in the first round, Jackson Smith and Jigbo went to the Seattle Seahawks. And just like that, their college careers are done. Seemed like they just walked in yesterday or day before yesterday, doesn't it, Matt? But boom, they're done. They're gone. And, of course, 3 other guys were drafted after that. Zach Harrison went in the 3rd round to the Atlanta Falcons. DeJuan Jones went in the 4th round to the Cleveland Browns. And Luke Whippler, kind of a real upset in the bad way. Luke Whippler dropped all the way to the 6th round, the center from Ohio State, who left early, went in the 6th round to the Cleveland Browns. No other Buckeyes were drafted. But it does seem like for all these guys, their college careers just started yesterday, doesn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it feels like CJ Stroud was making his first start on the road. Well, actually, his first start did was it against Minnesota?
Yeah, it was
It's
against
been
Minnesota on the road.
it's been a long couple of days for me,
By
as you.
halftime, people were calling for Kyle McCord to replace him. Kyle
That's
McCord,
right.
who is in a battle with Devin Brown for the starting quarterback job now, finally at Ohio State. But we both digressed. Now go ahead.
Yeah, I just remember watching CJ and I'm being like, all right, you know what? It's the first time where, it's just first game on the road, conference game, and there's also Travion Henderson's coming out party too. So
Yeah, and Mine
excited
Williams for
to-
that matter.
yeah, so it's hard to believe that was almost 2 years ago. So, but now they're going to be making millions upon millions of dollars in the National Football League, representing Ohio State once again in the NFL. So it was pretty cool. It's always pretty
Yeah,
cool to see guys that you have relationships with and you want them to do well and stuff like that.
yeah, and that's why I brought Monica Daniels on. She's been on my podcast, aka show, before, but you know, a delightful. She's still a young lady, at least as far as I'm concerned, considering what I am. A delightful lady, and quite the lady, by the way. The mother of Paris Johnson Jr. and she was there in Kansas City with her husband Mike Daniels and his her daughter Sydney and Paris Johnson Jr.'s girlfriend, and they enjoyed all that. Flew basically first class, if that's what you call it, on a private plane. Maybe it's Uber class to Arizona after he was picked. Spent a few days in Arizona and came back, and she just gives us just a little bit of insight on what it was like, but also what it's been like over the last 20 or so years raising this young man, who's one of the more delightful young men that I've covered at Ohio State for all kinds of reasons. Depth to this man is quite extraordinary, Paris Johnson Jr. And we talk about a lot of things leading up to that, and the things that made Paris Johnson Jr. not only what he became on draft night, but what he's become as a young man. And he is quite the impressive young man, isn't he, Matt?
Oh, absolutely. It's like I said, it's just really cool to see these guys that you've built up relationships with. And it's more success, more roads to success for guys who are just great on and off the field. So
Yeah.
it is very cool.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the reason Matt Parker is my co-pilot is we're going to talk about, just it seemed like only yesterday these guys were showing up at Ohio State and now they're gone. Matt's very much involved with who's coming next to Ohio State and who is already committed, et cetera. And, even in the transfer portal, obviously Andy Backstrom and Spencer Holbrook keep up with that stuff too for LettermenRow.com, especially Spencer. But we're going to talk about a few of those things after we get back from our conversation with Monica Daniels. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Monica Daniels. As promised, ladies and gentlemen, an encore appearance by Monica Daniels on it used to be the Tim May podcast. Now it's the Tim May show. Monica, welcome back. I think you've gotten rid of that scent of Kansas City barbecue. But wow, what a weekend you had, or really what an end of the week you had this past week, right?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, just a wonderful experience. It truly exceeded my expectations. So I didn't really know what to expect when we arrived in Kansas City on Tuesday. And then we just got back. My days are all running together.
Yeah.
Saturday night. Yeah, we got back Saturday night from Arizona. And it's been such a wonderful experience. I don't even have the words to describe everything we experienced and felt. We're just blessed, and it felt very surreal.
Hey, as a mother, the mother of Paris Johnson Jr., the number 6 pick in the overall in the 2023 draft of the Arizona Cardinals. Did you spend any time out in Arizona after y'all got out there, flew out there in a little private jet, right? But did you spend any time trying to help him find a place to live, or is that, you know what I mean? Did you throw the mom aspect in there, from Monica to Mamica? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I did share with Paris that it would make sense for him to live within a 10-minute radius of the facility, because that would be his home away from home. And so he agreed. So we're actually going to hit the ground running tomorrow and start looking at places virtually for Paris, just something small, not overwhelming, that's close to the facility, so he can keep the main thing, because he knows he has to hit the ground running as soon as he gets there, because he has, huge shoes to fill. So we'll get started with that tomorrow, just looking for a little small place that's close to the facility.
No, man, your son's 6'6" or something, and 3'10". He needs a medium place. At least get him a medium place. Hey, by the way, where is their facility? I don't even know. Do you know where their facility is?
Yes, the facility is located in Tempe, Arizona.
Oh, yeah,
it's like
Tempe.
in the
That's
East
what
Valley area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They literally go 25 miles to go play their games over in Glendale.
They do.
Yeah.
It's about a good 45 to 50-minute drive to the stadium. Yes.
Yeah, believe me, I've made that drive many times covering Ohio State. They were in the Fiesta Bowl forever, it seemed like. But just real quick, before we move on from that, I'm just wondering, does an NFL team, I should know this, but does an NFL team provide a service to help him find a place to live? How does that work? I mean, can you take advantage of those kind of things? Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. So every NFL team has a player engagement individual that works with the boys. Well, I should say young men.
Yeah.
work with the young men within a ball club that works with him and the family, sort of as a liaison to help with making transition. To give your listeners and your viewers an example is like CJ Barnett. So every ball club has a CJ Barnett. So our CJ Barnett, the gentleman's name is Josh, and Josh is our point of contact that will work with me and Paris with kind of giving suggestions on what's needed when you're making the transition from housing to cars, what utility companies you need to call to turn utilities on, just basic things where, the closest grocery store. So anything basic questions that we need answered, he's our go-to person. So he's our, CJ Barnett.
Yeah, and C.J. Barnett, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, is basically the player liaison at Ohio State football, and this is one of Ryan Day's right hand men.
Yes.
He's got a lot of
Yes.
right hand men,
He does. He does.
but he keeps in touch, and he does an excellent job. Well, then, hey, real quick, past one more quick thing on that regard. Does does Parrish have his own car? Will he drive it out there, or will he just purchase something new out there when he gets his signing bonus?
Yeah, so Paris, he doesn't have a car, so he's looking to. We're having those conversations right now. There's a couple of car dealerships that's in the area that would like to do a special deal with Paris. So we're
Wait a minute, let
figuring
me
those
interrupt
things
you.
out right now.
Talking about an NIL.
That's right.
Yeah, he's got it in spades now. That's
Yes.
that's crazy. All right, let's get down to it. You've raised, the old saying goes, you've raised him since he was zero. Uh,
Yes.
he stated his hopes and dreams when he was like 5, 6, and 7 years old.
Yes.
Uh, and you're going, okay. I mean, you and I, we talked about a lot of this on your previous appearance on this podcast. But man, to see him grow into that guy that walked onto the stage the other night in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Let's just get back to this. When did it become apparent to you as a parent that uh, you know this young man isn't just blowing smoke? He's going to grow into what he wants to be. When did it become apparent to you that his hopes and dreams were real, and the guidance really kind of ramped up from there, I would think? But go ahead.
Well, I knew that it was going to be realized for Paris, I would say, when he was in high school. So during his high school, his freshman year, he received one offer his freshman year to play Division I football, and that's when I knew, like, wow, like he's truly gifted. Like I knew he was gifted, but it was confirming when he received his first offer to play Division I football, and then all of a sudden the rankings started coming out, um, and to see Paris begin to grow in his position, I knew then that this was really real and we were headed in the right direction because others started to see what I saw. And he just started growing and developing into a really great student athlete.
Monica, you were a single mother at that point, right?
Yes.
Paris and his sister, right? And
Yes. My daughter, Sydney.
yeah, your daughter, Sydney. Boy, that was a great shot of you guys sitting there
Yeah.
in Kansas City. I sent you a screen grab of it. I thought it
You
was
did.
cool, along with, I think it's Paris's
Thank you.
girlfriend, right? And
Yes, Miss Anna. She's a sweetheart.
yeah, and your husband, Mike Daniel, sitting there.
Yes.
But when you were a single mother then, you, without getting too in depth, well, you can. It's a podcast. How much sacrifice did you make from a financial situation and everything else to further Paris's dream when it became very real?
When it became really real for our family, and I knew that Paris was going to need certain resources to help him to become the athlete you see today, and that takes money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that takes a lot of money. And so what we decided to do as a family was to just be all in on it. And so recently, Paris started sharing some of our story, our family story most recently. And so some of those things that I had to do was that I left my job. I left a full paying job. Some folks may not know that my background is that I'm a high school college counselor.
Yeah.
And so I've been in education my entire career. So education is very important to me. And so I decided that I was going to put my career on hold so I can help Paris realize his, because I could not limit Paris to between certain hours of my outside of my work day. He needed more resources and he needed more hours. And so we decided as a family, I was going to take a leap of faith. I believed in Paris and his ability. After we prayed about it, I then I left my job and I just used everything in my savings, 401k, to be able to support us as a family and to also be able to support Paris's dreams financially, and also Sydney. I could talk about Sydney a little bit later, but Sydney is equally as gifted as Paris. She's on a performing art, modeling, acting side of things, and so to be able to support both the children, they needed a full-time parent to be able to do so. And so I'm just very grateful that I had a savings, that I had a 401k, and I was able to utilize those resources to support Paris. And then going into Paris's senior year of high school, Paris had to transfer from a private high school to a public school because the private school would not allow Paris to early enroll into Ohio State. He would have had to spend the entire senior year with them. Even though he met all the graduation requirements, they still would not allow him to leave. And right. So they recommended that Paris enrolls in a public school. But if anyone knows the rules in OSHA, Ohio State, the governing body for Ohio State student athletes, I had to move. So in order for Paris to be able to have a senior season to play senior football at his next school, I had to move. That may sound a little silly, but no. I had to move. And so in order to do so, I had to sell my home. And so I sold my home. We went from like a 2,800 square foot home to like a 1,300 square foot apartment. So Paris can have a senior year of high school football. So that may sound silly, like, okay, the lady sold her home so her son can play high school football. But I believed in Paris's dream, and I knew he needed that additional semester and season of development to help him make the transition to Ohio State. And so I did it. So I sold my home, moved into the apartment to be able to help Paris realize his goal.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, I believe he was going to Xavier, right? And transferred
St. Xavier High School.
St. Xavier High School in Cincinnati, and transferred to Cincinnati Princeton, correct?
Yes.
Right up there off of been by it a million times up there off I-75.
Yes, absolutely. And, yes.
Were you 10 minutes? Did you get an apartment 10 minutes close to the facility?
I sure did.
Over there by Costco, or where was it? Oh no, I'm just messing with you.
Right. Yeah.
But boy, Monica, that is a leap of faith. It's also, I don't know, but it's a calculated leap, because you could see, like you said, you weren't just listening to anybody. Like, you were listening to guys like Willie Anderson, I would think, and
yes.
and people who knew that your son wasn't just a big guy who happened to be lording yes. over little bitty guys on a high school football field. He had some punch to him, so to speak. But man, to get to this moment without super serious injury, you just got to be breathing relief all the time, right?
Absolutely. Just blessed. We're just extremely blessed. We're very grateful that God has blessed Paris with an amazing ability and talent, and that Paris is able to take that talent to the next level and to bless other people by it. And so I'm grateful that where we are, and that I'm grateful, that we took a leap of faith, and we trusted we decided we were going to bet on ourselves.
Yeah.
And the worst thing it could be is that I was wrong, and guess what? I'll just go buy another house.
Yeah.
So just grateful that where we are today.
But
I would do it all over again.
Yeah. But as I pointed out in the story the day of the draft on LettermenRow.com, along the way, I remember, you and I, when you were on here, we were talking about the start of the Paris Johnson Jr. Foundation.
Yes.
I mean, to help, basically, like when he was playing in high school football, sometimes he played a team one time where all the kids didn't have pads and stuff. They had to,
yes.
if one of them came off, the other one had to put on his pads, and it just got to this young man, Paris Johnson Jr. so much that, this wasn't just yes, it was a leap of faith, and it was putting all your cards on the table, so to speak, but it wasn't a selfish deal, because along the way, he started a fantastic foundation, which you helped run and, been a part of since day one. Matter of fact, you're the motivation behind it from the standpoint of getting people involved and stuff. And so that puts him in another realm for me. I mean,
Yes.
obviously he won a major award for his work with his foundation this past year. It was decided on by the Football Writers Association for America, but especially for the stuff he's done for veterans, young people who need help with football equipment, et cetera, and the homeless. I go, well, that's about a dragnet, I mean, so explain once again to folks who don't know about Paris Johnson Jr. What motivates? Where did that come from?
Well, Paris,
that motivation.
He has a heart for others, and Paris doesn't like for people to hurt, and so he wants to use his platform to be able to speak for those that can't speak for themselves. And he just wants to be able to bless other people. And Paris understands what the sacrifices that were made financially for him to be where he is today. And so he knows that training and traveling and camps and equipment, none of that stuff is free. And so he understands that. And so Paris is well aware of the money that was spent for him to be where he is. And he doesn't want another amazing, talented young man or young lady to not be able to compete at the next level or get a shot at the next level because of resources.
Yeah.
And he also understands that some parents may not have anything to give or give up to be able to sacrifice for their child. And so he said, okay, I don't want another child or to not have an opportunity because of money. And that we don't want it to be because of money that somebody can't do something that they love to do. And because of that, that's why Paris created the foundation. And then also too, Paris feels that our veterans are not being taken care of the way that they should. And that we as a country, we need to do a better job of taking care of the men and women that have served our country. We're free today because of them. Like, Tim, you and I can have this conversation on this podcast and not worried about if we're safe because we have someone that is currently covering us and taking care of us. And then we've had great men and women before us that have paved the way. And so that's why Paris uses his platform, A, to be able to help other athletes, and B, to remind us that we need to do a better job of taking care of people that have taken care of us, and that's covering our country right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, I just I'm going to bring this up and then we'll move on. I mean, you mentioned his father was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals way back when, and it was the irony of that, and even he reflected on that the night before the draft, I think, just about wow, and the irony of that happening. And then basically his father hasn't been in his life for many, many years, as you well know, and stuff. And but do you think that has helped drive him to be the person he is, the caring person he is, to have, I don't know, to have care for other people?
Absolutely. Because Paris, again, he doesn't like for people to hurt. That's just how he's built, how he is created. And his dad has been in and out of both Paris and my daughter Sydney's life for years, kind of in and out. But he hasn't been involved. I want to say at least over 5 years at this point. I think 5 years, maybe 4, but I think it's 5. That he hasn't been involved in the children's life. And Paris and Sydney both are very loving people, very forgiving people. And so again, they decided we're going to use this situation as a way of being kind to others, making sure we treat people the way we want to be treated. And I'm very grateful for Mike, because now Paris is around a great man that knows how to treat and how to care for me, how to treat and how to care for Sydney. So he has a great example beside him on how that should be handled. And I'm also very blessed too that Paris has been around great men along the way. So when there were moments where his dad wasn't present, I feel that God did an amazing job by putting great men, his high school coaches, Willie Anderson, his uncles. And so Paris has been blessed to be around great men. that knows how to be responsible, that knows how to provide and protect the family. And so, and Paris is very passionate about, again, about being kind, about being generous, and being totally opposite of what he has seen with his biological father.
Yeah. And, you know, the interesting thing about Paris is when I was asking him about all the stuff he's done off the field and stuff, and I'm paraphrasing here because he didn't say this exactly, but he basically said, make no mistake, football, the attention that football has garnered for me and my ability to play it is why a lot of this stuff has come his way.
Yes.
And yet he has taken advantage. He has exploited that in the right way. You follow me? And
yes, he has.
I just think that's so deep for a young man to understand exactly why he gets eyes on him, and then to merit having eyes on him, and having people trust him. I mean, when you give money to the Paris Johnson Jr. Foundation, you're trusting for it to go to the right places, the right people,
absolutely,
the right causes and stuff. And that doesn't just, happen overnight. Mm-hmm. You have to prove yourself. And that's the part that he understands what he's about, doesn't he? I mean, it's, yes. I know I'm kind of answering my question while I'm asking. He does understand what he's all about, right? I mean, that's interesting.
You're absolutely right. And I've been very intentional with having these types of conversations with both Paris and Sydney about what you're touching on, because first of all, we believe in our family that God gives us gifts for other people. Yeah. And you're supposed to use your gift to be able to bless other people. Either it's through giving, it's through bringing awareness. And our hope is that Paris and others that have a big platform or a national platform or on a grand stage use their stage to bring awareness to an amazing cause. It can be about helping athletes. It can be about helping veterans. Maybe it's about helping someone that's struggling with dementia, or helping someone that is maybe the deaf mute community, but finding what community you're supposed to bring awareness to. That's what we're trying to make sure that we share with others. I'm Paris and Sydney, ever since they can remember, I've taught them to give. So I worked on giving with them and doing community service as when they were 3 years old, because I feel at 3, you have a sense of your surroundings and you should be able to have social awareness even at 3. So I remember one Christmas, Sydney was 3 years old, and we were at church, and our church wanted us to bring toys. Instead of giving toys to each other, they wanted us to bring toys to the church so we can go into the rural community and an inner city community and take toys. And so I challenged Sydney. I said, what's the one thing you want for Christmas? And so Sydney wanted some special little like tricycle bike, maybe the Door Explorer. I think it was Door Explorer. She loved Door Explorer.
Yeah.
And so she wanted that. And so I took her to the store and we purchased it for someone else. And Sydney was like, wait a minute. I thought you asked me what I wanted for Christmas. Why are we buying something for someone else, a gift that I want? And I used it as a teachable moment to say, yes, you can have these things, but before you can appreciate it, you need to bless someone else with it. So that way you have a greater appreciation for the very thing you're asking for, because you're treated different. So I've been very intentional with the kids about giving, about using their gifts for other people. So it's natural for Paris, it's natural for Sydney, because they've been doing it at such a early age. Because I learned in church, when you give, it comes back to you 10 times. And so I'm big on giving, about being kind, because it comes back.
When Paris got, basically got that award this past year, but then also, he's been, all Big Ten academic, and
yes,
and scholar, athlete, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this sounds mamby-pamby, almost like a I don't know, a made-for-TV kind of special that you and I are working on,
like a Hallmark movie or something.
Yeah, there you go, Hallmark. Yeah, and but. What of that stuff are you most proud of? I mean, obviously you're proud of him fulfilling his dream of being a football player and going.
Yes.
He's in the National Football League now. I mean,
Yes.
it's downhill from here. No, I'm just joking. But what of those things are you most, I don't know, proud of? You're probably proud of all of it. So once again, I'm asking a roundabout question, but which one just shows you that proved to you that he's the real deal? You know what I mean? His mom. I mean, he's not just talking the talk. I mean, what of those accomplishments kind of prove that to you?
I would say for me is, the Paris's education. Again, I'm an educator.
Right.
And I was the first one in my family to go to college. So I'm first generation. And so I have pushed my children to get their degree that's important to me. So I would say that one of the things that I'm so excited about, that I shout from the rooftops more so than Paris's football accolades, is that he has his degree from Ohio State.
In under 3 years.
Under 3 years. He did it in 2 years and 11 months. He has his degree, and that makes me feel good as a mom, because now we have more people in our family that has a college degree. Because my grandmother didn't graduate from high school. My mom graduated from high school. My father did. But so for me to say that I have a degree, and I actually have an advanced degree, Paris is now a college graduate. Sydney is going to college here at Ohio State in the fall. I'm so grateful for my son to have walked away with his degree, because there's so many athletes that leave for the NFL early and they're doing great, they're successful, but they didn't finish. So I'm just grateful that Paris was able to walk away with a degree before he embarked upon preparing for the NFL. So that's one. The other thing that touches my heart is when individuals contact me and tell me that Paris did something special for them that I didn't even know anything about. Yeah. And that does my heart good. It's just, my heart just fills up with so much joy for someone to call a mom. Like, anyone as a parent loves to hear great things about their kid. Like, your kid did this, your kid did that. And it has nothing to do with football. And it's like, wow, God, you're just so amazing. And sometimes I pinch myself like, okay, I must have been a really good kid growing up, that God blessed me with 2 good kids. Like,
yeah. So, yeah, exactly. It's in the genes.
Yeah.
Or you brought it up. You brought up about walking. The shoes that he has left behind are huge at Ohio State, in my opinion. But when you're sitting there in the crowd, I'm not sure exactly where y'all were sitting in the ready room, the green room, whatever they call it.
Yes, the green room.
The nerves, everybody is sweating profusely room. Is my name going to get called? Poor Will Levis, right?
I know.
But
I know.
You're sitting there, and instead of having to sit there for 32 picks, 6 picks in, Arizona trades up to get your son, which means they really wanted him desperately. But when that happens, give people an idea for a mom who's watched him grow up, like I said, from zero. Do you get like just the flashback of everything, that little bitty guy growing up to this big guy? What is it like when it actually happens?
When it actually happened, I thought about the very first day he signed up for football, and I had to help him put his helmet on and help him with his chin strap. I thought about that. And I also thought about how God has blessed us these last 16 years. Like, it took 16 years to get to this place, but yet it felt like he just started playing football yesterday. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yes.
I just had so much gratitude and appreciation. And also too, I thought, it's because of the good Lord we're here. It's because the good Lord put people in Paris's life to help him get to this place. Like, he didn't do it all by himself.
Yeah.
And it's just taking it all in, and just so happy. I mean, just so happy. And to say, okay, God, we trusted you. We bet on ourselves, and look where we are. Like, man.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. A young man who's living life to the fullest, in my opinion, and not frivolously.
Yes.
That's hard for me to say. Frivolously. That's just got to be. I mean, people are going, oh boy, Tim sure is gushing. Yeah, I am gushing because this is a special young man with a special
I
mom,
think so too. Thank
and
you.
you and I've talked many times, and I'm just so proud of you guys just to get to
Thank
this
you.
moment. And yeah, I mean, he's got a career in front of him. It may last 5 minutes, it may last 15 years, it may last 30
Yeah.
years. You never know, but he has gotten to that moment that he dreamed about those many years as a little bitty kid, and the sacrifices y'all went through to get him there, and yet the sacrifices he does to help others kind of get to their dreams just like you do. I mean,
yes,
I could go on and on. It is a Hallmark movie, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Now, if he could just keep those guys off Kyler Murray's back,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Monica, I really appreciate it. Hey, real quick before we go, anything else about the trip that just as you think back on it now, boy, that was really special. I never got to experience that before. Anything stand out about that the odyssey you guys went on over like 5 days?
Wow. You know what? I'm still processing everything. Like I'm still reflecting and still taking it all in. One of the things that I would say that I really enjoyed the most was meeting the other parents. So it was great, meeting the other draftees parents, because just think they have similar stories. We share similar stories. We made a connection. So I was able to connect with some of the other draftees parents so we can, build a strong relationship and make a connection. And also I was very grateful to learn, which I didn't even know this existed, but the NFL has a parent players association. So know me, I'm about to be involved with that. You guys know me.
You already paid your dues, right?
Yes. So I plan to be very active with the NFL Parents Association. I'm also excited about working with the Cardinals organization and doing community service with them, and just putting our the Paris Johnson Jr. Foundation and the Ohio State Buckeye flag in Phoenix, Arizona. And so I'm just excited about serving the people in Phoenix now and just really helping the Cardinals organization in any way that I can. So I'm excited. I love to serve. I love to give back. I love to love on people. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I've already reached out to the Buckeye Phoenix Alumni Club. I've already reached out to those individuals to say, hey, we're in your city. Let's connect. Let's do some things together. So I'm excited about those things.
Yeah, it's a huge chapter, man. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of snowbirds flew to Phoenix, flown to Arizona. By the way, it sounds like you're moving to the Phoenix area, right? Poor Sydney. I mean, where's she gonna?
Well, we're blessed because first of all, we're gonna always be Buckeyes, so we are Buckeyes. So we're gonna have our family home will remain in Ohio, but we're gonna relocate our home to Columbus. So we'll be in Columbus.
Gotcha.
Sydney will be So Sydney will be at Ohio State in the fall. You guys will see her around because she'll be working with football. She'll be working within Gene Smith's office because Sydney wants to go in this crazy business of ours. I don't know why, but she does. So she wants to go in exercise science, sports medicine. So she would love to be a physician for athletes. Wow. So Sydney wants to join this crazy world. I don't know why. Wow. So Sydney will be around. I'll be around. My husband will be around. And then we'll just have like a second place in Phoenix. And so we'll just kind of travel back and forth between Columbus and Phoenix, but Ohio will always be home. Ohio has a special place in our family heart, so we won't be removed. So Paris will be around in the off season. So you all, Buckeye Nation, will still see Paris. And so right now, I think he's at the Woody right now. So, so we love Ohio State, and so we'll still be at games and we'll still be around. So we're not going anywhere.
Gotcha. By the way, make sure that when you're looking for a place for yourself, but also for Paris out there, that it has air conditioning.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. When we left Phoenix,
as John Cooper, the former Ohio State coach, once said, they said it gets up to 103 out here every day, and they say it's a dry heat. Cooper said, "Well, yeah, Yeah, an
You're
oven's
not
dry heat, but
sweating.
you don't go sticking your head in it.
Yeah, like you're definitely hot. It's I don't know how else to describe the heat. It's like an oven hot.
Yes,
You're not
yes.
sweating. It's not, there's no humidity, so it's not a bad hair day,
It's still
but
hot though.
but
It's
it's
still
still very
hot.
hot. Like
Yeah.
when we left, I want to say Saturday, it was 102
Wow.
Saturday when we left Phoenix.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And it hadn't even gotten hot yet. Hey, it hasn't even gotten
No,
hot yet. Hey, what a
no.
quickie. The money Parrish is going to get, when he
Mhm.
signs his when or if he signs his contract. Now, I'm joking. That's life changing. Uh,
Yes,
how is he prepared? How have y'all prepared? But how has he been prepared for that? Obviously, he's going to have people working with him, and the key thing
yes.
is having people around you can trust. That's
Amen.
the key. But how is he prepared for just that aspect of it? Because it's hard for some people to wrap their head around, because it is like hitting the lottery, to a certain extent.
Yeah, it really is. And I think what has helped Paris is NIL. So going through the whole NIL process, that was a great introduction to Paris with the business side of football. And so Paris was very, very, what's the word I want to use?
Savvy.
Intentional with
Oh,
not spending
yeah,
his money.
yeah,
Very, yeah. So
yeah.
Paris, so when he went through the NIL space, Paris was able to not only learn about contracts and about time management, managing obligations along with classes and football, but the most important piece is that Paris learned how to manage and budget his money. And so I believe he's going to be fine. Like you said, we have a great team of financial advisors around Paris that's helping him. If anyone knows Paris, he is very tight. He does not like spending money.
I almost interjected a while ago. You're saying your son's a tightwad. Go ahead now.
He is
But you know what?
very.
That's the appreciation you get when you come from a situation where you didn't have, and
Yes,
you go ahead
yes,
though. Yeah.
and he's like he understands the money. He gets it. And again, the NIL space was very helpful with him to get a sense of the value of money and where to put money, what's truly needed, and what a desire is and what is required. And I know Paris would not mind me saying this, but his NIL money, he has not spent it yet. The money is put away in a trust for him. He says, I don't really need it. So that's how Paris thinks. So he has a good head on his shoulders, and my husband and I did a really great thorough job of making sure that we vetted people and making sure he has the right people around him to protect his money. And so I believe Paris is going to be fine. And like I said, he does not like spending money.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Monica Daniels. Boy, what a treat. It's always been around. I remember when you showed up at Pro Day and we ran into each other and you're trying to get
Yeah.
across the field. And I said, well, you're Paris Johnson Jr.'s mom. Just walk on across there.
Yeah.
Remember? It was like,
Yeah.
and it was like, and you are somebody.
Right.
Anyway,
The red coats wouldn't let me do it.
The red coats, man, you got to watch out for the red coats. Good thing they're not packing. That's all I got to say. But Monica Daniels, thank you once again for joining the Tim May Show again. It was
Thank you for
a
having me.
treat
I appreciate
once
it.
again. And
Yeah, I
boy,
enjoyed
good luck in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And if I just can make one last request, is Buckeye Nation, please keep Paris in your prayers. If you can just keep him in your prayers, that he stay healthy and that God continue to put the right people around him. Because again, I want Paris just to grow as a good man and do good things in the community. So if you all could say a special prayer for my son, that would be great. And all our kids that just got drafted, if you can keep them all in your prayers, I will greatly appreciate it.
Always enjoy. Anytime I've run into, and talked on the phone, talked to via Zoom, etc., with Monica Daniels, she is, like I said, a delightful young lady, and you can see why Paris Johnson Jr., one of the reasons why Paris Johnson Jr. is the man he's turned out to be, right?
Absolutely. The apple does not fall far from the tree, I will say.
Bingo on
sure.
that. Bingo. Well said,
sure.
even though it was a cliche that you plucked from the top branch.
That's all right.
Let's move into this, man. I mean, you cover recruiting. Ohio State, would you say Ohio State at this point in the 2024 recruiting cycle is getting it done? What cliche would you use to describe where they are in the process headed toward that 2024 class?
Man, how about full tilt boogie? How's that for a
That's not a
cliche?
cliche, is it?
Uh, I feel like it could be used as one.
Yeah, it could be. From now on, it is a cliche, full tilt boogie.
It
From
could
now on, that's
be.
what we're going to be singing or doing whenever you're on. But go ahead.
I mean, since March 8th, Ohio State has added, gosh, 11 commits to their 2024 class. They now sit at 13 with commitment of four-star running back Jordan Lyle over the weekend.
Yeah.
Pretty much, Tim, their offensive class is done. Pretty much. They have about at most three more pieces to add. Justin Fry, Mike Soleni, and Brian Hartline and Ryan Day are looking for at least one offensive tackle to add to this 2024 class. And then Keenan Bailey is looking to get one more tight end. The coveted 2 tight end class is going to happen, hell or high water, in the 2024 cycle. So I think they're just a couple of pieces away from being done on. I mean, if they got 2 pieces today as we record, as on May 1st, we record, the show's live May 2nd, Ryan Day and his offensive staff could take a step back and be like, all right, we got every guy that we want and need. And now we have to evaluate to just make sure that this is who we want and this is what we need.
Yeah.
So it's kind of surreal because that was not the case in the 2023 cycle.
And meanwhile, Ryan Day and his defensive staff, because he is the head coach, they've got to dive right into it, right? All right, they still have some hay to get to the barn, correct?
Oh, absolutely. They only have 2 commits on the defensive side of the ball, which is a little less than what you need to field a defense, I will say.
Well, let me ask you this: is there a concern there that who knows what the right and wrong timing is anymore with recruiting, with a early signing, the real signing period in December, and then the late signing period in February? But are they behind the beam there? How would you describe it to folks?
I think it's just kind of the way of the beast, especially for the way Ohio State is. It's a high octane offense where the spots are numbered. It's pretty much, if you want to be a Buckeye and you want to be a part of this, if you're a quarterback and you want to go number 2 overall, if you're a wide receiver and you want to go in the first round, like we just had, or rather they just had, a few days ago, they're not holding spots. It's a come and get it. Whereas defensively, you're still seeing Ohio State undergo this defensive turnaround. They're now going into year 2 with Jim Knowles and his staff and his system and his scheme. So when they host recruits on campus, last fall and throughout the remainder of the 2023 cycle, they had to show Oklahoma State clips and be like, this is what you can do. And now it's Scarlet and Gray clips, and they're getting the kids that they want in the building. It's just turning those visits into commitments. And there are a couple of silent commits right now to Ohio State. But as far as kind of everyone has been so caught up in this offensive recruiting run, the question that has always came to my mind first is, all right, well, when is this going to translate to the defensive side of the ball? And I think we're going to see that in July. At the tail end of June, Ohio State will have major official visit weekends when the cream de la crop of the 2024 cycle and their families are all brought to Columbus on Ohio State's dime, because that's how the official visits work. And you'll see some decisions being made in those last couple of weeks of June for these kids, July, August, and there might be some kids that go all the way to December. Like, we see every single cycle. I just think when you look at it, bare bones, when you think of Ohio State football right now, what do you think of? The offense. And so if you are a quarterback like Aaron Noland, if you are a wide receiver like Jeremiah Smith, you're a running back like James Peoples, you want to be part of that. And you don't want to lose that spot because someone else took it. So I think that's why you see we saw that rush of so many commitments over the last 2 months.
Okay, people are going to look at this class right now, this committed class. Of course, nothing matters until you sign. They see three running backs, you know, and the guy we haven't even mentioned yet is Sam Williams Dixon from Pickerington North, who committed the day of the spring game, right?
Yep.
And three running backs in one class. What do you do with those? And I keep reminding people, ladies and gentlemen, they had five running backs in their running back room at the beginning of the year last year. I think it was five at the beginning of preseason camp.
Mm-hmm.
I think that number is correct, maybe four, but you had Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, Evan Pryor, and Dallin Hayden, the freshman. And so that's four. And then, boy, that's loaded. They are loaded. Next thing you know, they're playing Georgia in the national championship semifinal. I'll put it that way. Covered my base there. And suddenly what you see is Travion Henderson is not even dressed. Well, he's dressed, but he's not. He's in his jersey, but not his uniform because he got his foot operated on. Mayan Williams can barely get going in that game because he's banged up. Dallin Hayden, the freshman, is playing. Chip Trainum, who had gone to Arizona State to play linebacker, but then gone to Arizona State to play running back, transferred back to Ohio State to play linebacker, suddenly got boosted back to running back at Ohio State near the end of the season last year because they were running out of running backs. And then, of course, Xavier Johnson is being used in there, a wide receiver being used as running back against Georgia on some counts. And tight ends are being stuck back there. And the bottom line is you can't have enough running backs. So do they keep all three of these before signing day? I think they probably do, right? They can put on the video, like you said, and show to people, hey, we may need 4 or 5.
I think, to answer your question, yes. I do think Ohio State will sign all three of those running backs. As it relates, they'll sign them in December. No sweat. Maybe some sweat. I don't know. I can't exactly predict the future that well. But I will say, I feel pretty comfortable that Ohio State will sign all three of them. And, taking three running backs in one recruiting class, that realistically only happens if you have something in your past that did not go the way it wanted to. And you look at the 2023 class, and there was no running back. Tony Alford and company, they didn't take a running back, even though at one point they had Mark Fletcher from American Heritage, teammate of Brandon Inniss, who was a longtime Ohio State running back commit, and then ultimately decided that he was going to go to Miami instead, stay at home, which is good. That was, I'm not going to say it was a good thing. Let me catch myself. I'm not going to say having a kid decommit is a good thing because it's never a good thing, but it allows, some time to really assess what you want, who you want. And with this 2024 class, you have James Peoples, who, even though he is, he lives in San Antonio, Texas, goes to Veterans Memorial High School, has roots in Cleveland and Youngstown. So it's essentially an in-state prospect that just happens to be, 1,000 miles away. And then you have Sam Williams Dixon, who for most of his life has lived in Columbus, Ohio. He did live in Millersburg for a little while, but transferred back to Pickerington North, back in the Columbus area. So that's two in-state kids at a position of dire need. And then Tony Alford, Brian Hartline, and Ryan Day go down to St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the most well-known high schools for as far as football production. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that's where the Bosa brothers played. Is that correct?
Correct.
Ohio State has roots in that building. They have roots on that high school campus, and they go back down to South Florida and do what Ohio State does. And they pluck a very talented prospect out of South Florida. As it relates to, I guess, their on-field capabilities and why 3, I think it's important to look at the fact that, talking to some sources in the building, Ohio State wanted 2 true running backs.
Right.
You know what I mean? They wanted 2 true running backs where if they need someone to be a bell cow and, get 10, 11 carries a game, they want 2 of them for this class. And that's what they get with James Peoples and Jordan Lyle. Sam Williams Dixon offers a bit more positional versatility. I watch his game and I think, man, he's a running back, but I'm going to name two wide receivers because of what they've done in this Ohio State offense. I watch him and I'm like, what Xavier Johnson does, that's a lot what I could see Sam Williams-Dixon doing. What Curtis Samuel did in that Ohio State offense, I could see them putting Sam Williams-Dixon in that similar
like
role.
Evan Pryor. That's what they have in mind for Evan Pryor. Go ahead now.
Exactly. Whereas in that 2021 class where they took two running backs with Evan Pryor and Travion Henderson, it was a little bit more apparent that one was definitely going to be your bell cow and one was going to be a little bit more of a, we're going to put you here and put you there and put you there. I kind of like, though, that they took two bell cows and still had another option. Because if there's one thing Ohio State and Ryan Day love, it's their weapons. The more they have, the better they feel. And that's exactly what Tony Alford got for this running back haul in 2024.
Yeah. We got to do something about that cliche bell cow, though, since a cow is a female, that goes in and is milked every day.
Yeah.
These are more like bulls, for want of another term. Be the bull of the backfield. There you go. There you go. I'm gonna work on weaving that in as often as possible. Real quickly, Matt. The other thing is too. You talked about the connections James Peoples had with Ohio. When you look at him, he's down there in the north of San Antonio, and why is he coming to Ohio State? And then you look at a couple of guys they picked up in the portal this past week, which they wanted to go out and get a tackle from somewhere, an offensive tackle, because things just look a little bit, not desperate, maybe not the right word, but concerning at right tackle. Let's say that coming out of spring, and they get Josh Simmons, the kid out of San Diego State, and the connection with Ohio State is Justin Fry recruited him somewhat when Justin Fry was at UCLA, the offensive line coach, and they've stayed in touch, obviously. And Josh Simmons decided, hey, he's going to take his talents east northeast, and boom, he's at Ohio State, a position of need, right? And of course, Lorenzo Styles Jr., who went to Notre Dame a couple of years ago. His brother, Sonny Styles, younger brother, Sonny Styles, is going into his second year at Ohio State as a safety. And lo and behold, their dad, Lorenzo Styles Sr., of course, played linebacker at Ohio State in the mid-1990s. So the connections, boy, they kind of come in handy sometimes, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can remember, first few weeks doing this job, and it was, trying to build up sources and everything like that. And I would ask the question, it's like, well, what's the most important thing in recruiting? And it's relationships. That's what it is. You never know where a relationship, when you're talking to a high school kid and his family, will pay dividends down the road. Maybe their situation at the school that they went to doesn't work out. And then all of a sudden you have that relationship, and relationships present opportunities. And that's exactly what you have with these two transfer additions for Ohio State. Regardless of, Josh Simmons being at San Diego State, and I think you and I can both be honest with each other. There's some room for him to work. He is not yet an Ohio State offensive tackle. But he has a relationship and trusts Justin Fry to get to where not only he wants to be but also to where Ohio State needs him to be.
Yeah.
Then as it relates to Lorenzo Styles Jr., I can remember being on the sideline during pregame for Ohio State Notre Dame last year, having conversations with, at the time, the entire Lettermen Row staff. And we were all just saying, man, it doesn't make any sense that he's in the white and gold right now. This doesn't make any sense to us. And then here we go, a few months down the road, he's traded for his scarlet and gray, probably where he should have been all along. Do you think?
Yeah. Well, things happen for a reason, but not only that, he not only is trading. I mean, he was a wide receiver at Notre Dame of some repute. Now he's going to play defensive back. I mean, there's a chance there could be two styles starting or playing together in the Ohio State defensive secondary. That's very interesting to me. How about you?
It's a very stylish defense, I'll tell you that much.
There you go.
But yeah, as it relates to the
I like that,
position
by the way.
switch.
I like that, by the way. I didn't want to interrupt because I'm bad about interrupting, just like I just did. But I did like that.
I had to sneak it in there. Um, but as it relates to the position switch, do you think someone's going to make the joke of, okay, everything that you did at Notre Dame, just do it backwards?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
something to think about.
Well,
Something to think
all
about.
I know this: if he's at safety, if he ends up at a safety position, well, we'll see where he ends up. Stay deep, young man. Stay deep. That would be my call. But you look at Tyler Buckner. What he started, I think he started at quarterback for Notre Dame here against Ohio State last year. Now he's at Alabama, where his offensive coordinator is now, who was at Notre Dame. I mean, the world just keeps. It's like a paint mixer anymore, isn't it?
Yeah. It's well, to Buckner's position as well. Notre Dame brought in Sam Hartman from Wake Forest because
Yeah,
they weren't too sure on who they had at quarterback.
yeah.
So the transfer portal has just opened up college football to a whole entire new realm of something.
Yeah, but it's funny. I mean, like, a guy in your position, which is in mergers and acquisitions, which is what you're in. Recruiting. Recruiting. I mean, I don't know how these coaches. I don't know how they. Mark Pantoni and these guys, the recruiting coordinator. I don't know how they just keep up with life from one day to the next. I mean, it's crazy college football anymore. The comings and goings, isn't it? I mean, even on a recruiting trail, you think you got a guy, then you don't. Then you think you don't got a guy, then you do. Then you lose a guy, and then you get him back 2 years later or a year later. I mean, thanks to the portal, it's crazy the amount of people, like you said, the relationships that not only are built but are sustained, right? And come in handy at exactly the right times. I mean, can you imagine being in those positions?
No, and I quite frankly, I don't ever want to be in that position, having to keep tabs on, because also with that, now you have to have roster retention, right?
Yeah,
So
you
it's
got to
like
recruit
you
them
have
while they're
guys on your
there.
team. Exactly. And this just sounds like such a big headache. Like I bet you somewhere inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center is just a big old tub of Advil or something.
Yeah,
There would have to be. There so many headaches trying to navigate through recruiting high school prospects, looking at the transfer portal, and then making sure that the guys that you did bring in from either the portal or from a high school program, that they're happy.
yeah, yeah. And Ohio
So
State's lost just a handful of guys to the portal this year so far. Obviously it's over. The portal has closed. I think, or is pretty close to closing. I get the dates all mixed up in my head, but
I think
that's
it
the
was
one.
yesterday.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that uh, is interesting is at least they put a little bit more of a time limit on it of when you can jump in, jump out, and jump in again, and so this brings a little bit of sanity to the month of May, right?
Absolutely. I just remember having some conversations with folks last December when signing day was happening, the portal opened, and there were bowl practices all in the same like 5 days.
Yeah,
And I just remember having some conversations with folks and being like, what do you do about this? And they say just an IV of caffeine and just keep it going.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what they have to do. That's what they have to
yeah.
do.
And I like in Ryan Day's position as being standing in that cash machine on the Ohio Lottery. I don't know if they still do that or not, but where they just whirl stuff and you're trying to grab it, and boom, you might grab a 20 here, you might get a one over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's just a whirling dervish, but it is what it is. Hey, Matt, one last thing. You just got back from Kansas City, right? Were you there all weekend, or visiting a buddy of yours, or did y'all go down and partake any of the draft atmosphere?
Yeah, I was there visiting one of my good friends from college. He lives out there doing a grad school slash doctorate program. So I was like, seems like a good time. Take some PTO, go to Kansas City. We did check out the draft. Didn't make it to the main area, like where the stage was and everything, because they had already reached capacity
Yeah,
at like 4 o'clock Central Time, and the draft didn't start until I think it was 6 or 7 Central Time, somewhere in there. Um, But Kansas City is a pretty cool spot. I'd never been there before. Great barbecue. I did know that the barbecue was a big thing, and there is some. I'm not doing free advertising, but there's a restaurant there that has the best burnt ends I've ever had in my
What
entire
is it?
life.
I mean, who for people that might get to Kansas City one of these days? What's the name of it?
I want my royalties. I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not doing
you're
free
not gonna name it.
advertising.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I want an NIL deal from this place
there you
before I
go.
say what it is.
Yeah, you got to get a steak when you're there too, though, man. They've got I don't know what it is. You know, it's just maybe it's just reputation. It makes the steak taste a little bit better, right? But uh, yeah, they're well known for their cuts of meat. Let's put it that way, right?
But it was great barbecue, great time, always good seeing, friends and things like that. So it was some nice time away, but it's also good to be back.
Yeah, and I'll just use that as a cheesy cutaway here. It's always good to have you on the Tim May show, Matt Parker, and I appreciate your insights, especially on the recruiting realm. By the way, what size class is Ohio State going to end up with? Do you think, from a number standpoint?
Hmm.
Because Ryan Day, talked about this
I've
being a possibly, near max capacity class, 25 names, maybe 24, 25. Do you think it'll get there?
I definitely think it'll get to 25. I wouldn't be shocked if it goes to 26.
Yeah, gotcha.
So it'll be a big one, to say the
It'll be a
least.
it'll be a big one, ladies and gentlemen. Well,
It'll be a
that's
big
not
one.
a cliche. That's just straight stating facts. Matt Parker, thanks for joining the Tim May show again, my man.
Thank you for having me.
And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you then.